we'd like to welcome to the stage Anthem Blanchard, the CEO of Hercules SEZC, or maybe Zech. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He is the co-founder of blockchain companies, Hercules, SEZC, Herc.one, and Anthem Gold, as well as co-founder of precious metals dealer Anthem Vault Incorporated. Anthem also serves as chief executive officer for all three companies, as well as a member of the board of directors for each company. That's a good spot to be in. He was raised by legendary gold bug and precious metals pioneer James U. Blanchard III, who helped restore Americans' right to own gold and also founded rare coin and bullion company Blanchard and Company, once the world's largest. Anthem Blanchard, please.
Honor. Thank you very much. So thank you all very much. Honored to be here. Thank you, Vit, Yana. Thank you, Mike, Brad, team, Vlad, Daniel, everyone. Really appreciate being here. This is probably the most excited I've ever been for a speaking event, so I'm a little nervous too. But I really love what Mike said in the beginning about love and trust. That's something that rings really deeply with me. I think wealth, creation of wealth, ties into that because ultimately trust and love are found through communication. And so ultimately we have all sorts of different forms of communication, and person being super powerful and exchanging value is super powerful. So I think those are really important, synonymous. I would even think spirituality, you could even say, are synonymous with these words. And so really what we have with blockchain, cryptocurrencies, public blockchains that Bitcoin invented, is that we have open voluntary marketplaces. And I heard money being used a lot today. And I am of the opinion that money actually is a violent currency. And so I think that cryptocurrency is peaceful, voluntary currency because ultimately governments are forced marketplaces. They're violent marketplaces. So they require you to use their token in order to actually conduct any business in the forced marketplace. And so, whereas crypto tokens, if you don't like the marketplace, you just sell your token, right? You sell your Bitcoin, you go to Ether, you go to Storage or Factom or any other public blockchain suite. So, my middle name is Hayek. My parents named me after the economist, Frederick August Hayek, who wrote Denationalization of Money. So, I really, this topic rings really deeply with me. So I'm really excited to be here, tell you a little bit about myself. I started in precious metals, really with my parents. Really, before Bitcoin was invented, gold was the core of the forced marketplace messaging system. So the fiat system, so Fedwire, SWIFT, China Union Pay, and then all the various levels. So when Bitcoin came around, January 3rd, 2009, the beautiful day, and about every 10 minutes since consistently it's cleared, and it's never had any stoppages, and it's pretty remarkable from a mathematical standpoint from that sense relative to everything else out there. That we had all of a sudden the ability for humans to be able to let go of our deep burden that we've supposedly been burdened with for thousands of years of having to be custodians of trust. And now we can allow machines to be the custodians of trust, but have a voluntary consensus, so it's not the Skynet, Terminator, Hollywood, fear-mongering. It's really that we can choose by human consensus, by voting voluntarily, by changing tokens. And so it's a beautiful concept. So we came at this first with precious metal. Really, I came from a precious metal background. My parents, I started with a digital gold centralized company called Gold Money in 2002 to 2008 that had a change in ownership in 2015, and really learned a lot there. I served on the audit committee of a NASDAQ board, Russell 2000, non-executive audit committee member, so I could have gone to jail. 401ks were in Pernex, PTX, the stock. Stock got up to like $300 million plus market cap. My friend, Cooper Collins, was the youngest CEO of a big board publicly traded pharma company. So I have authority. I can say I spent 48 months in an audit committee of Russell 2000 for at least 2 of those years. And the publicly traded world is just full of collusion and basically just stretching the rules of GAAP FASB. So you have to, because we live in a zero interest rate environment. And so it's a kill or be killed environment. And that's been the reality for, I would say, decades. And it's accelerated since things have gone negative interest rates, really, the last 10 years. So you're seeing, that's why you see an acceleration of less and less publicly traded companies, because they're all eating each other. They're all a bunch of cannibals. So I like to think of all of us, we're like these like versatile tool sets, like these big craftsman sets of tools. We think in all these different ways. People that think in the forced marketplace paradigm, they're like a rough hammer. It's just like a jackhammer, a sledgehammer. There's like banging sledgehammer everywhere because everything looks like a nail to them, and they're nailing everything right now. And you're noticing that, you're seeing that happen. So I'm really, really enthused. I'm going to get through these slides quickly because I'm hoping to have at least a minute for questions, and I want to have like a minute or two about Liberland because I'm really excited about that, and a couple thoughts there. So we got to this idea of Hercules, which is kind of appropriate because the legend of Hercules has Hercules going through the Danube, so right through this area and right by Liberland. It's kind of wild, but we came at this from tokenizing gold. Basically, our team created the first ever gold-backed crypto token back July 2014. So if you Google Reuters, INN coin, my name, Frank Tang was the author, Reuters, it'll pop up. We made a lot of headlines. We got a lot of clients for our precious metal Genesis business, Anthem Vault, and we realized we wanted to do the real thing, and we did the real thing. We created an awesome token on a platform called Counterparty. We did some real great innovation, innovating passwords to make them easier for people but still make them secure. Forced marketplace regulators said that we had to risk up our business as a money service business. They invented this new, well, it was an existing category, but new sub for us. And so we said, great, we'll do it. We started losing our bank accounts because banks are privileged, right? It's a privilege for you to have a bank account. Whereas blockchain, it doesn't matter who you are. You be Rodney Dangerfield in Caddyshack, right? And there's no cult of personality. There's no worries. Anyone that has an internet connection can open up a Bitcoin wallet or any kind of blockchain wallet, right? So we had to innovate. We had to spin out, de-risk this precious metal IP for crypto. And so we did that. We spun it all out into a new company called Anthem Gold about a year and a half ago. And when we were starting to do a raise on this online platform called Bank to the Future, we realized there were like 50 some odd companies that had press released since we created Independence Coin, INN Coin, back in July 4th of 2014. And we realized we got to differentiate ourselves. How do we trust any of these people? How do they trust us? And we realized we need to prove the provenance of the gold backing the token. How do we do this? So, well, we can use public blockchain because public blockchain gives us the ability to have data integrity because the data always maintains. And you can interconnect these different public blockchain softwares because ultimately what public blockchain really did is it allowed us the ability for the first time ever to secure software. We know for a fact software has never been secure because the biggest institutions have admitted to getting hacked, including the US military, Pentagon, Deloitte, Equifax, largest credit agency in the US, all have admitted to getting hacked. Networks we know are secure. We get phones, emails, constantly streaming. Networks are secure. And so what Bitcoin invented was the ability to connect the network and the application software together to be able to have immutability in data integrity. So what that allows you to do, in simple words, is be able to have historical data that gives you a digital audit trail when any changes are made. You see, even the most sophisticated businesses in the world right now, Amazon, Walmart, they ultimately can't prove third-party immutability to any of their vendors, even using the best software in the world, Oracle, JDA, SAP. None of that works because ultimately you can't prove when the data got changed. You can really just show typically when something got created and maybe the last time something got edited, but you have no idea in terms of whether any of those numbers have any kind of original integrity or not. So what we did with Hercules is we created a supply chain software that's public blockchain that indexes verifiable, auditable files ultimately, and has two different sets, and then proves that these sets existed by putting a proof, a hash, kind of like David was talking about before, into Bitcoin using another blockchain called Factum. That's kind of like a notary, basically, but instead of getting the authority from the government to notarize, date, stamp, time something, that you sign something, the authority comes from the Bitcoin blockchain. So just to touch upon the data integrity, this came from Forrester. So the number one biggest problem in the world for businesses selling to other businesses is data integrity. They can't trust each other. No one knows what the other person is looking at. So the beautiful thing, what we've done with Hercules, is we've enabled It's all the blockchains are permissionless, but as David was talking about, whoever you give your keys to, you can decide basically who gets the information. And that's the beautiful thing, right? You can have different keys for different sets of information. So just to kind of go through this a little bit, we have all the technology built. I'm happy to show any of you privately. I've got a node on my Sony phone right now on. We're using Edge wallet. Tech's already all built, all done. Edge is from the Airbits team, Paul Pui, so we're very honored to work with them. We directly touch these 4 public blockchains, Ethereum, IPFS, storage, and Factom. So IPFS and storage we use to store those auditable data files in a blockchain cloud. And then we also put at least one set of backups wherever the client wants them. So Hercules' first client is Anthem Gold. And so Anthem Gold wants the files locally at the bunker, which is in Montgomery, Texas. It's about 45 minutes away from Exxon Oil Global Headquarters. So I'm not going to get into this because it's private, but you can see we've thought a lot about how we're going to do things economically. This is also on our website here, herc.1, H-E-R-C, so helping eradicate racketeering and collusion is the acronym for the token. And it is a utility token, 1/10 of a penny per kilobyte to index information into the Hercules. You can kind of think of it like a library index, like a Dewey Decimal System, but instead of books, it indexes all these auditable data files. So just kind of going in again, we mirror the same cost as Factom. So we end up being 2/10 of a penny, 1/10 of a penny for Hercules, 1/10 of a penny for Factom, and then whatever the storage costs are at the time, which are actually much cheaper than Amazon S3 Cloud, interestingly enough. So STORJ is a really cool decentralized storage cloud. It's kind of like BitTorrent and Amazon had a baby. So we went through some of this. Again, we're dealing with some of these legacy players, SAP, Oracle, JDA. Again, they all really suffer from the same issue that they have no way to have data integrity, and they suffer from a secondary issue that their token is a common stock unit that can be infinitely created and really has very little value these days. Because really back the value was in the day it got you listed publicly on a digital exchange, which is kind of laughable today, right? So this is the better part of our core Rockstar team. So Cynthia really wanted to be here. She was disappointed she couldn't be here. She got really sick, and she's in New York right now. Logan Galema, who's our Rockstar CTO. We have about a dozen or so developers, maybe a little more than that now, with Logan and team. Gray Jabizi, a chief visual officer. He's what makes the websites and all the collateral look so good, and this deck looks so good. Chief strategy officer, and Brian French, COO, and our board here, Peter Buckley, was a seed investor of Bats Global. He had 18.5%, and Bats had a very successful exit publicly, and then they ended up getting bought out by CBOE, which now has the Bitcoin contract. So anyway, there's some great people there. Our advisors here for Hercules, Bill Barhide's really well known in the industry. He's got a really successful wallet called Abra. David Drake, we're working with him. Kind of privately with the tokens, and Andrew Yashkuk, who VP of product. Andrew brought in the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation into Factom and Department of Homeland Security grant in the US, and then he was the head of hardware integration at Storage prior to being at Factom. And then Steve Dack, who was the co-founder of CryptoKit, which was the precursor to Jack's Wallet, which is a popular wallet now owned by Anthony Diorio. And then Joby Weeks, a popular mining syndicate, so Michael Turpin, PR, and then Dominic Zenas, he was head of product development at Mastercoin, which, like with Brock Pierce, was the first ICO back in the day. So that's it. So thank you. I wanted to also, I've got like 30 seconds. So I'm really excited for this trip. And I think the key thing for me is always transparency and communication. And so I think one of the critical things are going to be is to really make sure that we spotlight and make sure that we showcase and really just have as much optics as possible everywhere. So that way we can let the world be the judge of who ultimately has the moral authority, because that's ultimately all that matters. I mean, we saw that in Barcelona with a much more forceful situation, I think, ultimately. So it seems like it's amazing, right, to you both, and your team, all these people to have assembled this incredible ability to be talking about Liberland's third year, and this is reality. And we, bring government officials from, Croatia, and people are open to this idea. I mean, it's hard to deny love. It's hard to deny people wanting to be free and personal agency, and really that's what we're about. Hercules is going to enable everyone to achieve their personal agency, because you don't have to have the wealth that probably was stolen in some way to have to create multi-million-dollar startup these days, which is pretty much what it takes. So now with public blockchains, we have complete transparency. We can completely prove to anyone if anything is legitimate. So I think it's really exciting. I think it's going to really empower this next generation that's really been disenfranchised, and I'm excited. So I think that Liberland presents a great opportunity as well, because it's starting on the ground level, so it's really accessible. So thank you very much again. Appreciate it.